So I realize the irony of talking about trauma while I'm sitting in a pool in paradise, but there's a point to that. Maybe. We'll see if I get to it. So this is where this is coming from. This week I just got done with a big networking meeting. And after at the end of it, you always have a couple people that hang out and get real talkative and we go a little bit deeper than the meeting does. I had one of my coaching clients, they're more of a sponsee. I don't really participate in AA. I'm just sober. I don't do any meetings or really anything. Um, but I do love to help. So I have people that I talk to all the time. I guess you call them a sponsee. I think that's more of a AA type thing. Sponsor sponsee. That's what you do when you've joined, but it is what it is. Um, AA on this island. I've actually never been to a meeting. I went to one, like, I guess you would call that a meeting in the ocean. Never really did AA. I don't know. Just wasn't for me. Did 75 hard and that pretty much knocked it out of me. So let's talk about this. So I grew up like probably lower middle class suburbia. Had two parents my whole life. Went to a good school. Went to a great college. My college was very expensive. Thank God for scholarships and financial aid. Um, yeah, always needed financial aid and scholarships, but I wouldn't say we were low income. So I always consider myself somewhat. I'm living good. Always had food on the table. Had two parents and two brothers. I bought my car. I think half with my own money, half of my parents' money. It was like 1,000 each. Bought my first car at like 16 or 17, whenever. My parents said they would match whatever I had. Um, College was largely paid for by financial aid and scholarships. I think it was like 60,000 a year when I went there, and I think we paid like maybe 5,000. And my parents covered most of that. I worked a lot too. So I worked every day in college, and I don't remember what we called it, work study, something like that. So I had to work to pay off for some of my college too. So we get money for that. So anyways, long enough story. I've never really thought that I had like trauma. You hear about, people that are molested in bad relationships, DV, orphans, people with dead parents, all this stuff that's, you know, thousands of things that are way worse off than anything I've really gone through, at least in my mind. And so it's been like the last 2 months, and a lot of it's come around with people that are sober, talking with them about their past and connecting with them. And now I'm starting to hear, holy cow, that's your story. You need to tell that more. And now if you have followed me for long or watched me or know me at all, I hate the negative shit on Facebook. I don't really post any of my tribulations. I only post successes and happy and joy, because nobody wants to fucking. If you're already doom scrolling, you're not happy right now. Something must have happened. You're wasting your life getting your dopamine rush. And the last thing you need is someone like, oh, this happened, that happened. And obviously, I go through a bunch of shit. We all do. I mean, with businesses, there's always setbacks, this and that. Sometimes I talk about them, but never do I talk about really negative stuff. I don't keep that pretty personal. But I just prefer social media to be positive and fun. I mean, when you go on social media, I would hope you end with a smile. So that being said, I've never in my life really considered myself to have trauma, and I've done therapy. Yeah, that was a bad relationship. I was in therapy with this girl after like 3 weeks of dating. And then we had to fire our therapist because they kept agreeing with me, and she would get mad and yell at them and then fire them. That was wild. But anyways, so I've been to therapy, and then after that I did some solo therapy. And I talk to people and they're always like, "Oh, what's your trauma? What's your hidden this?" And like all the spiritual energy people are always like, "Oh, have you dealt with your trauma and all that?" And I'm like, I don't. I'm a white guy, a straight white male from suburbia, Colorado. There's no trauma. I went to a decent high school, went to a great college. I've always had food. I've never worried about that. I've never done drugs outside of cannabis and alcohol. And the jury's not really out for some people, but cannabis isn't really a drug. Alcohol, whew, it's another tough one. But yeah, so I've led a pretty, what I would call a solid life, right? Without any trauma. Did my school, learned, got pretty darn smart, passed some tests that got a little piece of paper, a degree, gave it to my mom. Haven't ever seen it since. Started businesses, living a happy life, whatever. But the more I talk to people, the more they're like, "Oh my gosh, you did that. You went through that. You need to tell that story." And I'm like, "Why? Like, who cares?" So, the more you talk to people, the more you meet. There's people with these really, 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 really bad stories. Obviously, I mean, Epstein's Island is like right over there. Anyone there has insane stories, and there's a lot of work to be done with that. I can't really imagine. Nervous little laugh right there. I can't even imagine half the stuff that people have gone through. But I guess the point of that is that there's different levels, but everyone goes through some trials, tribulations, and trauma, right? And so there's some things that I've talked about that people are like, that's super. Have you worked through that? That's your trauma, this and that. And I'm like, that's not trauma. There's people that lose legs. There's people that, don't even have parents. There's people that have never met their brothers and sisters. I don't have trauma. Um, but yeah, so I guess the question, so really, oh man, oh man. So this also got me thinking about, oh man, we might get a little deep here. Um, So yeah, so now we talk about trauma, right? And so I guess my point right now in this first part of this video is that everyone has trauma. Everyone has something to bitch about, right? If you listen to Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, they all talk about you. Everyone has something in their past that was fucked up to them. And some people it might be small. I mean, there's also levels. You could be the person that watched both your parents get murdered and then was raised by the murderer by some weird bad justice, and then someone else like didn't get their gold fork at dinner, and in their own minds that could fuck them up equally. It's weird, I know, it's crazy. The brain's a crazy thing, but I mean, like what we would call spoiled rich people that never have to worry about anything, small things can still affect their mind and their brain chemistry. It's crazy. um but yeah, like not having not being able to use the Ferrari for a day can really make that situation with your father tough. And there's millions of people out there like, I never met my father. How is this person complaining? And so sometimes it's hard to be relative in your brain if you aren't exposed to other people and cultures. You don't know how to be relative. Therefore, you could be going through not having your gold fork and Ferrari. Someone else could be going through watching their parents murdered, and depending on your environment, your life, and what you've been exposed to, you could have the same traumas in your head. It's wild. Go talk to a psychologist, not a psychologist who studies the brain, psychology major. All right, yeah, I guess that is psychologist. And so a lot of it is if you're unable to be relative to other people or experience other things, or you don't read a paper, there's this possibility. Does it happen? Probably not very often, especially now. People, social media, everyone gets news and is exposed to things much, much faster. So hopefully we don't see that at all. But it's kind of insane to think of how different levels of trauma can affect people so differently. So everyone has some sort of trauma. Everyone goes through things. Some people have really, really tough stories. Some people have stories you don't think are very tough, you know, and so who you talk to and this and that might have different levels. So it's taken me a while to really feel it and realize that I guess I have traumas in my life. Maybe I'm using this because it's a clickbait word. Maybe it's just a trial or tribulation. And I think everyone has those for sure, right? We all have setbacks. We all have things we have to get around to get to our goals. And sometimes people give up. It's too big of an obstacle. Sometimes it takes 30 years to dig around it and get to where you want to be. And that's how it works. So maybe I shouldn't be using trauma so much. Maybe there's going to be some, I'm not going to go there either. Someone's going to yell at me. But anyways, so now the real question is, how do we let us affect that? Right? So, with AA, there's meetings, being sober. There's with business, there's coaches. I mean, there's coaches for everything. If you don't have a coach, or a board of directors for your personal life, you should really be striving to find people that are where you want to be and connecting with them. That's probably the number one goal. Man, I don't even know where we're going. Oh yeah, my ex. Crap. We really going to talk about this? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So everyone has trauma. Everyone goes through shit. People are alcoholics. I still don't identify as an alcoholic. I just don't. I know in AA, everyone that goes there has to say I'm an alcoholic. The one meeting I was at, I think I skipped that part. um, yeah, I don't know. Well, that's a whole nother video. Holy cow, we're going on tangents here. ADD strong this morning. Hurricane coming in, mixing up some electromagnetic something. Yeah, hurricane should be here tomorrow. That'll be fun. So now the question is, how do we deal with each other's traumas? Everyone's got something to bitch about. That's been one of my favorite lines for my whole life. Everyone's got something to bitch about. Some people have more of a right to bitch about it, and some people can deal with it faster. How can you deal with it? But then you have people in your life you're going to meet that have different traumas. So just like I was saying, maybe you grew up with your Ferrari and you resent your dad because he didn't let you have the Ferrari for a week. And so that's built this tough, and remember, these are hyperboles. I'm trying to give you a nice exaggeration. So you and your dad have this tough relationship, and you're like, when I was 17, you didn't let me have the Ferrari, and I missed out on golf practice and polo, and that's why I'm not a professional polo player. Maybe this could happen. You resent him. And over here, you've got a dad that you're like, I watched you. Oh man, we're gonna get. Let's try to not get too tough. I watched you rob 3 banks while I was in the car, and now you're in prison. I resent you for that. So this could happen. So now these two people meet, and maybe their core values are great, their missions are great, they've grown, their environments have changed, they've gone through their life, and they've had the right people, and they meet, and they fall in love, right? And now when this person talks about their resenting their dad for not using the Ferrari and not making the polo team, this person, how do you connect with that? You're sitting there like, dude, I watched my dad rob banks. What the fuck are you complaining about? And this person feels the same resentment, and they're like, I understand that's worse, but it doesn't change how I feel about my dad. And now, how do they cope, correlate, continue their missions, their visions, make sure their core values fit while they still have such different stories, same feelings towards their parents, but in such different situations? And so that is a tough thing to talk about. And so it's made me realize, oh man, am I really gonna say this? Yeah, so my ex went through a bunch of stuff in her past, and I'm starting to realize maybe I was not quite that accepting as I should have been about what she went through to get to where she was, and probably pretty judgmental. And in the end, that probably is what her past is probably what led us apart, because it didn't fit the perfect past that I wanted for my partner. So now, if you think about it, who has a perfect past? Probably fucking no one. So the real question on your life quest with people you meet, people you date, people you want to potentially marry, people you just want in your lives is, what has happened in their past? How have they dealt with it? It's never gonna like be, oh, you're never gonna like, heal from your trauma. Like, it's gonna be there forever. You might be able to resolve it or work around it, but your partners, I mean, this is even friends, even business partners, if you want to stick it to business, which is usually my favorite topic. Um, so yeah, so how are your business partners going to be when you're short on cash? You can't hit payroll that first year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years. How are they going to react to that? How did their past? Did they grow up broke and they're not worried about it? And they're like, oh, I lived off ramen for 6 years, whatever. Um, but really, your potential partner of any sort is going to go through some trauma. They're going to have a reaction to it. They're going to hopefully have done some work in healing, and you have gone through trauma, and hopefully you've done some work in healing. But those levels, it's not even levels or magnitudes, they're just different traumas, are still going to affect how you live and work and grow. So how do you work with someone else with a very different past from you, and their level of work, their level of trauma, and how it relates to you? And that is the question for the day. Everyone has something to bitch about, but how much you bitch and who you bitch to